Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Jentry Chau versus the Underworld, Season 1, Episode 10. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we had our opening where we kind of see the moment Chang ended up going down the path he went down. Obviously, he did everything he could prior to the whole making a deal with a Mogwai situation to resurrect his daughter. That was interesting. The person who he was like, I had to climb to the top of like this mountain, that the person told him to do this. He said like, you've been through the exact same thing. And I wonder what that person was, because they shapeshifted into like a creature. So I'm like, they didn't seem to be a normal human, but even they weren't willing to go down the route that Chang eventually did. But they said like they were just too scared of what the consequences could be. But Chang was so desperate that he made a deal with the Mogwai, and that's led to where we are present day. So his daughter has been resurrected, but it's not the reunion he thought it was. I thought she'd be like, who's to say her soul isn't toward like, something bad happened to her. But it's like, no, it's still her. But the fact is she's scared because it's like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be, because he never thought about like what the great beyond is like for her. But also it's like, you're supposed to be my dad, but you don't look like you, and you're scaring me because you're telling me I have to stay. But she's like, no, I want to go back, and he's doing everything he can. And this ends up being a major arc and thematic element to the entire series of the older people not caring what the kids want, what the younger person wants, whether it's Gentry's situation, whether it's Michael's situation, and now in Jalan's situation of her dad not listening to what she wants. She wants to go back, and there ends up being major consequences for that. Her desperation to get back to the great beyond, she's tearing open portals to like the underworld and stuff like that, but it's because they're not the right places, and she can't find the right place, and leaving these torn open leads to things from the DU like seeping into this world. But Chang doesn't care about what he's doing on that front, because all he cares about is, I'm trying to get my daughter to calm down. Especially doesn't help that because she was cold, he tried to warm her up by giving her the Yellow Emperor's robe. And that, rejuvenates her body. But, she has all that power, and that's what's letting her do what she's doing. And so Kit is badly injured, but it's like, yeah, this is a consequence of your action. And so we go back to the football game situation, and Wheeler's kind of chastising Gentry, and it's like, look at what she's doing. Like, look at this portal opening. But it's like, no, that's not her. And even later on, Wheeler's like, please, Gentry, save us. It's like, yes, you've been hounding her ever since you found out that she was the fire starter, that you have been hounding her and talking about you're going to do this and that. Once again, the desperation of, okay, now I need you to save us type of situation. So even she's like, oh, really? This is what it comes down to now? Yeah, here you are fleeing for your life when everything's popping off. But Gentry's not the only one handling this alone, because obviously she's got Michael and Stella backing her up, which is super dope. So, and obviously she ends up figuring out like, right, that girl had the yellow robes. If she does, that must mean something happened to Gugu for her to like be able to get those robes. Like something must be going on at home, which I love. The fact is that Michael later on is like, wait, Gugu died, and I'm just finding out. I was like, Mike, Gugu's been dead for a hot minute. She's been dead since the end of episode 1. So it's like, yeah, kind of threw that on you, because like, at least Stella didn't say anything. So I'm sure Gentry told her everything. So told her everything. So, but yeah, they run into Kit, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I did all this for us. Once again, it is that thing of everyone thinks they're doing it for someone else. But it's like, no, I'm doing this for selfish reasons. You are also doing it because you were hurt. Because he thought like, right, if I become human, now me and you can be together. But it's still like he couldn't just accept the no. But it's once again, it's like, who knows if he's ever been in love? I think he's been in love before. And like over the centuries that he's been around, he has definitely been in love before, because we got a quick peek at one of his previous lovers. But it was a situation of, they found out what you really were. They didn't accept you. Gentry did, but then she was like, yo, I just can't be in a relationship with you. But his desperation to like have you, now that you've seen him and accepted him, but now it's like, oh, even though you accepted me for what I am, you're also not accepting me for what I am. I'm supposed to accept myself, but you won't accept, So he did a dumb thing. And, once again, that thematic element of being selfish comes through at the very end of it too. But I mean, that's what it is. Everyone, once again, that's the very human thing to do. Everyone is selfish in their own regard, looking after what's theirs and getting and going after what they want. So all the while this stuff is popping off on Earth, in the living realm, Jean-Qui, like, goes to Flora, who she's like, what? No, this isn't a spell to cause an explosion. I just thought the place needed to be decorated. But he's like, yo, stuff is popping off in the living world. I need your help. And if you help me settle all that, then I will like gain you your freedom. So he ends up freeing Ed and the other ghost, which is like, oh, you guys try to save me. And I love that Flora chastising him, being like, yeah, but you kind of failed to do that. I expected that more from a Zhangxi. And he was like, oh, you expect a lot from me or something like that. And it's like, yeah, like she's come to love that little rascal too, just like Jentry has. So they go back topside after Jentry, Michael, and Stella all armed themselves up, except Michael didn't bring the sword because he saw it in his vision. He's like, right, I need to do things differently. I saw that vision and I can't let things play out that way. So he saw that he could change things before, but because all his other visions have come true. The Stella situation is, yes, she was in danger, but he never actually saw her getting hurt. Every other situation, his visions always do come true. So it is that thing of, can you actually change them? But he also doesn't have a full grasp of his powers. He's only getting glimpses, so he doesn't see when it's coming, type of situation. So, but it's like when you think about everything else, everything has played out exactly. But like I said, the Stella and that bull situation, we saw Stella standing there and the bull behind her, but that's all Michael saw in the vision. So even then, it's like you stepping in to save her, but it's like if you don't do anything, it could play out differently. But he just hoped that he could change things. But so far, he hasn't changed anything necessarily, at least that we're kind of fully aware of. Everything else has played out exactly the same. But he thought, well, I can change this. If I won't bring the sword, I'll bring the spear. Which he does pick up a sword later on when him and Jentry are fighting against those demons. But it's like, it's not the same sword, but still. I even love Stella running after one of the demons, trying to use one of the talismans. She's trying to say Fong, and it's not working. So, all the while, I should also note that vision, when Michael had the vision again and we saw Jentry, I was like, oh, is this going to play out the way I was like, wait, that could be a possibility. And then it plays out exactly like we'll talk about it later. But yeah, like I didn't even think about it until until he replayed the vision in his head this episode. I was like, oh, it could easily be Kit in disguise, couldn't it? I was like, well, we know that it takes a lot to kill Ed. So I was like, would Kit be the same way? Seems like that's not the case. Like being a Zhangxi like works a little different than like a painting face or whatever paint face, whatever once again Kit's demon name is. But like I said, we'll discuss that when it actually gets to when we get to discussing that scene. But luckily, Ed shows up with Gugu as well as the other ghosts who start possessing the demons' bodies. I guess that worked. I wonder, would you? I guess no, because I think the issue is just. I mean, I'm sure Jean-Qui would like ignore all this considering the emergency circumstances, but I think it's probably less of a no-no if you're possessing demons. So everyone's got their bodies, and Gugu and Jentry are able to talk again. And it's like, she's like, wait, what happened to your arm? Who did this to you? I'll kill them. And it's like, yes, Gugu, you do love her. It's just like, you didn't always handle things the best way, but it is like, this is your grandniece and you love her and you do care about her. So our group, like, fights back against everything, but also prepare. Oh, I even love Ed has his moment where he's fighting off some of the demons, and then he scares one of them. He's like, oh, I'm scary. And then Gentry's like, yeah, that's my best. I was like, yeah, he had his moment of being scary. But yeah, they end up talking to Chang, and Jentry understands better than anyone what Xiaolan is going through. So it's like, let me talk to her. As long as you try not to kill me, I will save your daughter. Because it's like, is this what you brought her back for? And so Jentry talks to her and is able to calm her down, because the entire time she's thinking about like what happened. Really quickly, I love the way like Ed boosted her up, and especially when she was over that giant skeleton, her stabbing her sword. I was like, gave me Shadow of the Colossus vibes. When you're scaling a giant entity. That I think Shadow of the Colossus will always be kind of my immediate thought. I mean, I'm sure there's always like Jack and a Giant Beanstalk, probably the more classic tale, but you know, in a more like fantastical realm in its capacity, obviously Shadow of the Colossus is what immediately comes to mind. But either way, she like seeing Jalan like freaking out the way she did. We're seeing everything with Gentry, which we still don't have the context for what actually happened 8 years ago that set her off. I talked about that previously. I was like, at first I thought like, oh, was it because of her parents? But her parents died when she was younger. So I was like, it couldn't be that. Maybe it's just she was scared or freaked out. Like, what exactly set off all of that? You know, because she had gotten attacked as a child that set that in motion. I thought like maybe her and Gugu were training and Gugu pushed her too hard. Like, we just don't know what it is. It could have just been a natural kid tantrum of, or freaked, like something happened that did all that. Because it didn't seem like she was angry. It seemed like she was scared. And that's why that also brought up too, like, what if we find out the fire wasn't even her? Even though she has the fire powers and she's kind of burned stuff down now, like, we still don't have the greater context of what set that whole thing in motion. But maybe we will in the future episodes. But either way, Gentry was able to talk to Zhao Lan about, you know, it's like, right, I get it. Your father, he thought he was doing right by you, but he was just doing what he wanted. He didn't listen to you. And it's like, we will take you back to where you want. If you want to go home, we'll take you home. So for Zhao Lan, it's like for the first time someone's listening, because the entire time her dad's not listening to her. He's just like, once again, he's desperate to get his daughter back. He's also being like, the Mogwai is manipulating that need for his daughter and that desperation. And, you know, maybe at its core, that is still him, you know, acting what he's doing. But the Mogwai is twisting and contorting that because he's had to, probably for centuries or whatever, has had to like, or, you know, a long period of time, he's really had to hold on to that. That's the only thing that's kept him going this entire time, is why he made the deal with the Mogwai in the first place. But yeah, it turns into a struggle over the yellow robe again, and ultimately Gentry ends up getting it, but Chang ends up stabbing her, but we find out it was Kit in disguise, and Gentry is now fully absorbed, like to the point the yellow robes are gone. There's no, they would have to find another substitute for them now, but now it's like those it might even be a thing of now those powers are fully integrated into her, like to the point like the yellow robe disappeared, and it's like that's her fully taking all the power, and she kind of gives herself a little bit of like a cape now. She's fully integrated the powers, and her and Chang duke it out. And for him, it's like, me and Flora bowed it out for ages. What makes you think she's trained you? But I know everything to deal with Flora. But it's like, I'm not Gugu. I'm me. And also, Gentry has access to these powers, and she recently learned more stuff that she could do with it. So, doing her flame kind of Kamehameha wave, doing the chains, which don't just bind you; they literally were piercing through. Piercing through him, then like her like doing like a kick to jettison him in the air and just knocking him around, and then like piercing him with the chains, and then going in and ripping open the Mogwai and ripping out Chang. You know, and he was young-ish because being part of the Mogwai is the only thing kept him kept him alive this entire time. But the moment he's removed from the Mogwai, he dies, because it's like, yeah, he's just kind of a normal human and his time is catching up with him. Luckily, Stella coming in with the save, because I was like, oh my god, this thing's going to get away. But then she comes over and puts the talisman on it. And, you know, there's this sweet moment between Chang and his daughter. And it's like, you know, for him, it's like, I'm going to have to go through the DU, and it might take me a very long time until my soul is as pure as yours. But once it is, I'm going to find my way back to you, to the great beyond, so we can be together. So she finally has her dad back at that moment. He kind of has himself back after all this. It's like, right, I've kind of got to work on being a better person, to be the father that my daughter needs me to be and remembers me to be. So they kind of have this beautiful, like, you know, send off for Xiaolan as she goes to the great beyond. And this time they're going to give a proper burial, because I think that was what Chang was saying. He was like, give her a proper burial, because he was told that, I mean, bringing it full circle, because the episode was at the beginning was like, yo, like, we could give her a proper send off, but his reluctancy to let her go. So, but this time, not only Chang, but also Xiaolan, as well as Kit, will get proper burial. So, because Kit did, you know, come through in the end, and he did try to do what was right, in the end. So that's what, like I said earlier, I thought he'd probably be fine being. I mean, but as we see, like Ed's a very, I guess his species are probably more. They're probably closer to zombies, shape-shifting-ish zombies, than they are any other demon. Since like he could once again get split in half and stuff like that and still be fine. Kit got stabbed and he died. So I guess it's like a difference between getting stabbed by maybe a regular demon or any other me. Like maybe could like a regular sword have killed him? Maybe, maybe not. But like he doesn't have like that invulnerability that Ed does, and maybe very few demons do. There is still the situation of, despite all this being dealt with, there was still the deal, and I'm sure that still needs to be dealt with because I didn't think about it. Because the entire time I'm like, yo, this feels like a season finale. I'm like, but I know we have 3 more episodes, so I'm like, what the hell is going to go down? But to be fair, there was still a lot of unresolved stuff. First and foremost, like I said, we don't know about the stuff from the past, about like what happened 8 years ago to make Gentry pop off like she did. Michael doesn't know about his whole constitutional situation. There's still the whole situation with Iris, because Gugu would say like, oh, I'll find a way to bring you back. But it's like, once again, once you've gone down the ghost path, there is no like going through the processes of being reborn type of thing, or even going to the great beyond. You're kind of stuck there, at least that we're aware of. It seems like that's the case. So how that's going to play out, we'll have to wait and see. Because I had brought it up, I was like, oh, like I kept thinking like, oh, maybe we'll get a Gugu and Iris thing, but I completely forgot Iris was encased in that stuff like Ed and them was. Like the moment Gentry and Ed made their escape, was that episode 7? I completely forgot that Iris got, like petrified as punishment. So there's that. But it's also the deal that they made with, what was his, Oxhead and Horseface in episode 2. It's like, they will not kill Gentry as long as she like doesn't have the powers. To be fair, she had them for not a while and that never came up, but now that she has the powers again, I'm sure that's going to be an issue. So they might still pop up in the next 3 episodes. So I think that's something, like I said, I'd completely forgotten about that until just now. So I'm like, that's something that could circle around. But we also have the stinger where Gentry's mom isn't dead. And as we saw from the vision, it seemed like Chang had basically held her captive or somewhere for the past 15/16 years. But the only person left to answer those questions is the Mogwai. So it's like, as long as you let me live, I can help you find Mooney. Because I took her memories. She's out there somewhere without her memories, but she's still out there. So I guess that's how he was probably able to keep her hidden for so many years. As long as she doesn't know who she is, she doesn't have a family to go back to. Because no one knows to be looking for her. Even though Flora was like, yo, don't kill my daughter. But it's like, probably put her somewhere out there in the world so that she's so far away. And without her memory, she doesn't know anyone's looking for her. You wouldn't even know how to begin looking for her. Plus, I think Gugu has so much other stuff to juggle up. I have to look after Gentry. I have to prepare her. I have to do this thing for Chang to try and help revive his daughter. So we'll have to wait to see. But it's like, I thought, like, I was assuming like, oh, like maybe she'd be like, I mean, that's always been my assumption, like, oh, she's somewhere in the human world. I mean, who's to say she isn't somewhere like in the DU or like some like supernatural place, locked away, not knowing what she really is. Because Chang's the one that did it, but the Mogwai was still just as much of a part of him, while part of that process. So that's definitely going to be interesting. And this is what I was talking about earlier too, about the selfishness of the right thing to do would be to put this thing down, but for Gentry, it's an opportunity to bring back her mom, and everyone, it's that sad cycle over and over again. What Gugu trying to bring back her sister, Gentry wanting to bring back her parents. I mean, even Gugu still wanting to try and do something for Iris now. So, and now it's just it's that mistake over and over again of like, you kind of want everything, but if you try to get everything, you might walk away with nothing. So who knows what the greater consequences are going to be. Like I said, I kind of felt like, oh, this feels like a season finale, but like I said, 3 more episodes, so still plenty of time for things to go wrong. We'll probably have to wait to see on the greater context of the aftermath of this episode for like how the town reacts to Gentry. She saved a day, and what Wheeler said at the time, like, is that still going to get blamed on Gentry, all these demons and stuff popping up? Because even if she wasn't directly involved, all this popped off because this is the town as a whole's first interaction with, like, the demons and stuff like that. You know, Stella, Michael, they're cool about it, but no one else is really, because the whole Alamo episode, everyone got possessed, but they don't remember the aftermath of it. So we'll have to wait to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.